And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to the monthly Rideshare podcast. This is the True Uber Advisory Board. It has been a month, so I'm amazed I did not mess up that intro. I was expecting to, but the gang is all here. Unlike the Beatles, who will never be reunited. I am Kevin, the Apptrepreneur, and we have got Cecily from Drive Girl Drive. Say hi.
Hey.
Nice.
We have got Mike from Your Driver Mike.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And of course, we have Mark from Uber Hints.
Hey!
and so good to be in the same room. It's been almost a month. You know, it was kind of funny because after the last podcast and we started talking about like, yeah, we might be doing this a little less because how much is there to talk about? Yeah. Sure enough, a month goes by until there's something really worth talking about to get us all in the same room and to be doing this again.
Right.
But oh boy, is it a big one. And just to let all you listeners know up front, you're in for an exciting show because I already know some of us don't agree on a couple of the topics at hand. And we're going to start with the most obvious story to start with, how New York City actually did something really bold. You know, we keep talking about whether or not regulation is good for Uber or not. And there's been some debate on how much we want to see it regulated, but very few states have actually done something to regulate Uber, which is why I think this is personally significant, whether you like it or not. New York City actually really put like a hard foot down, and they said you could only have so many registered vehicles on the road as Uber and Lyft drivers, kind of like the taxi industry. Now, of course, we have some major conflicts about this. You know, you have some people saying, hey, this is about time. They need to start regulating them. And this is some of the good things that can come from regulating it. And then you have other people pointing out that the regulation was written by the Taxi and Limousine Commission and that it seemed more favored to the taxi drivers to protect a dying industry and hear all the bad things that can come from it. And so we are going to talk about that. And we don't actually open with Mike very often. So Mike, let's start with you. What do you think of this?
Let's do it.
What New York has done.
Yeah, well, hey, you always keep me in the know because I don't really read up on everything going on, but I did see this come through a little bit ago about this cap. Well, I can tell you I'll speak generally, guys, because I don't know if I can speak too specifically to the actual logistics, but
because none of us drive in New York, just to let you know.
And by the way, we do have a New York City driver in the live chat right now, guys.
Oh, is it NYC Uber blog?
It's Kevin Joseph. Thanks for joining, Kevin. But let me say, if for any gig economy job, you know, whatever we want to call it, independent contracting, gig economy job, saturation, if the market reaches saturation, that becomes a problem for us as independent contractors. And everything that I work on right now, I'm really going into delivery and the scooter charging again. If saturation becomes an issue, things need to change, in my opinion, because especially for these New York City drivers, I mean, this is a hub of the taxi industry, you know, before Uber, obviously. So, you know, these men and women that are driving for Uber, saturation crushes them. So I like a cap. You know, again, I haven't read too much as far as the nuances of that. But the idea of it, I do like the cap because saturation hurts everyone's earnings. And you have, I think, a lot of loss, right, versus more success.
Okay. What about you, Cecily? What do you think of this? Oh, can you hear me, Cecily?
Cecily.
She dropped out. So, okay. Mark, I was going to save you for last because you were the most passionate about this that I was aware of. So while I figure out what's going on with her, why don't you share what your opinion is?
Yeah, I changed my mind. I don't really have an opinion.
Yeah. I guess a lot of hate mail will do that for
no, a lot of mine is philosophical, and a lot of mine is based on what I think is going to happen and what has happened traditionally with New York City. I know that the prevailing opinion is that you keep ridership down and you're going to save everybody, and hallelujah, we can all dance in the streets. But unfortunately, I believe that at some time you just got to let free enterprise work, and you got to let it work through its bugs. And if people aren't making money, hey, you know, it's up to them if they want to keep at a job that doesn't make money, or if they want to move on and do something else. So having said that, what New York has just created, I fear, is a system identical to what's happening with the taxis. So they have not, in essence, capped drivers, they capped vehicles. So what we're going to have now is you are going to create a culture of people just like the medallion owners who are just going to have a fleet of Uber cars, and now you have just destroyed the independent driver. Mike, I know that you think this is great for the independent driver, and I take issue with that, because I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a bunch of independent drivers who are now going to be required to lease their cars from the select few. There'll be a hierarchy now of people that do have vehicles that are licensed to operate in New York City. And as a result, they are going to essentially own the rideshare market. And anybody else who wants to get into it has very effectively been shut out. And I don't think that's what this whole idea of being an independent contractor, running your own business, is all about, being indebted to someone else who happened to get in early and now owns the vehicles and the right to use rideshare. Now, additionally, I was just reading this morning that the fear is you are going to chase people out of the city. There's riders that want to, or drivers that want to drive. They can't drive in the city. So you're just moving the problem somewhere else. They say they're going to move it to Long Island and, you know, place like Nassau and Suffolk County and different places like that. So what have you done? You know, you push the problem on your neighbor. I don't see it as a solution. Not only that, I'm not off my soapbox yet. But now what's happening is Mayor Khan, not to be confused with Ricardo Montalban of Star Trek fame, but the one in London, wants to do the same thing. He is now asking for the authority to cap drivers there, and I think this is going to be a vicious cycle, and I am done.
Okay, well, Cecily, I was going to ask what your opinion was before you mysteriously dropped out of our lives for 5 minutes or 5 seconds.
I know, that was really hard.
Yeah, but what do you think about this?
You know, I'm not surprised. I'm on the same page with Mr. Mark here. I feel like it's survival of the fittest. I feel like if you can't hack it, if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't be out there on the road. I feel like it's not fair to a lot of people who haven't had the chance to get on the platform. And I would like to throw in my own personal experience. The first time I ever been to New York, it was about 2002. And I remember seeing all the cabs. I'm from Sacramento, so I'd never seen anything like this before. And I was just like, gosh, there's just so much congestion and everything. Fast forward to 2 months ago, I went to New York, and it's the complete opposite. It's mostly cars, but it's all Uber, Lyft, and what have you. And I was just like, you know, one thing that my friends tell me is that so few of them are even using the subway because it's much more affordable for them to use Uber, jump in and jump out of cars. They feel safer. The culture has really changed, but it's also unified New York in a way where people were less apt to go to certain places because they didn't want to travel by subway for whatever reason. Now, I'm not saying I'm not from the East Coast, guys, so you may have a different opinion, but from the folks that I talked to, they were saying that it was a great thing. So I say, why change something that's working for the people? I do think that they do have the cab drivers in mind. And I think that just applying this Band-Aid is going to create another problem. And I think it also is going to breed room for corruption, for people to take advantage of other of drivers that need the money and may not have a car on the platform. I think that it's just going to cause a lot of issues in the future.
All right. Well, I'm going to state a couple things up front. First of all, I do believe that this, cap proposition, which was written by the Taxi and Limousine Commission, was definitely probably short-sighted. I think that the Taxi and Limousine Commission probably shouldn't have been arguing for more regulations on Uber. They should probably have been arguing for less regulations on them. I think that would have been more beneficial to them in the long run had they done that. But this is where they decided to go with it. So, you know, whatever. I'm also going to say that I actually frequent New York a lot because I not only have family in New York, but I don't know if this is well known, but I am a huge Broadway fan. I love Broadway, and I go every couple of years and I see like a ton of shows. So I'm doing a mixture of the subway and Uber. And so I will say Uber has made it a little bit easier because, yeah, considering where I stay, it is cheaper and faster to Uber from where I stay to Times Square than it is to use the subway, although in a pinch, I can definitely use the subway. Now then, as for the ruling itself, I made a video about this, and apparently it's going to become one of my more infamous videos because I decided to dance like a fool in it. And that seems to be what people are talking about. Like, I was so happy for regulation that I was dancing. Well, really, I was dancing for a couple of reasons. I was dancing, first of all, it gave me something really bold to talk about. And two, I admit, part of me is a little spiteful. Uber's gotten away with so much that I was kind of happy to see them get it to them. Now, will this hurt the drivers? That is a good question because I'm actually kind of in the middle. I agree with a little Cecily and Mark. I believe that the free market should dictate itself. The free market usually does. And at the same time, I'm thinking that Uber has gotten away with so much that I do believe in some practical regulation. And one of the things I was thinking of, if the cap includes that, well, if so many drivers leave a platform every year and you can't replenish those drivers until like the next time period comes up to get new drivers, then maybe it'll force Uber to pay their drivers a little better because that 2 to 4% retention rate that is really not a big deal right now to them because their business relies on overturn. All of a sudden, that's a very scary statistic for them to have. You know, if they can only sign up so many vehicles on the road a year and they lose 90% of those vehicles throughout the year, then that puts them in a really bad position. They might be forced to pay the drivers a little bit better and treat them with a little bit of respect because now losing them is a big deal. So, and I think I actually even said in my last video that I was a little unsure about how this was going to play out. But you know what? And I've even stated, I would love for there to be no regulation, that it could work out without regulation. 3 years ago, I loved doing this. But Uber's also like the example of what happens when regulation does not exist. It becomes such a wild, wild west situation where the drivers, and let's face it, sometimes the passengers get a short end of the stick, but it's mostly the drivers because Uber doesn't care about the drivers. They just got screwed so much over the last few years. The horror stories of people taking out big loans for cars that they couldn't afford because they were going to pay it off using Uber, and then Uber lowered the rates. You know, the upfront surge, that the upfront pricing in general, it's like, I am actually okay for like, okay, you know what? Even in a state that messes things up so badly, like they actually wanted to dictate how big the soda cups had to be, I am willing to test run heavy regulation in a state or two just to see how things play out. And if, hey, it doesn't work out, then we can say no thanks everywhere else. But we've been saying no thanks to regulation for so long that why do you think we complain so much? Because we let Uber do whatever they want. And now it's like, even if this is not a solution, like Mark and Cecily said, in Mike's corner, I'm like, you know what? I'm willing to try it, though, just to see if we can find a solution in it. So that's where I stand, personally.
Okay. All right.
Unfortunately, Kevin, but I don't think that it is going to result in fewer drivers. When you talk about by attrition, I believe that New York is something like 25% a year. But what's going to happen is those, you know, the Uber license is going to become like the taxi medallion, and they are just going to be running a show. You know, they
Yeah.
talk about how many Uber cars are on the road in New York. That's how many drivers are currently active. That's not how many cars are actually driving in Manhattan. You know, it's and that number is not going to change. It's the number of licenses that they issue to the vehicles. The way I understand it, I'm assuming that's how they're going to cap the vehicles. So they're saying, well, you're going to lose 25% of the drivers. Are you really? If all you're doing is capping the number of vehicles, you're not capping the drivers, you're capping the vehicles. Well, suddenly those vehicles have just become so much more, they have so much more value. Yeah. And you're not going to, those vehicles are not going to drop 25% a year through attrition.
No.
It's just the drivers. So I just don't see this as having, you know, any great positive effect.
But I also see, you know, like here in Los Angeles, there are tons of people that rent cars for, you know, from owners or other Uber drivers, and they use them. And I see like more of a push of where people will be sharing cars with other drivers, because I know people that do that here, and we have nothing close to a cap. But, you know, this is a really quick and easy way for people to make money. I see people kind of coming together. And that's why I say that if you got one of those cars on the road or a couple of them, you can kind of charge any price you want for a person that's desperate enough to pay that price.
Well, see, that's my point. The cars are becoming they're comparable to the medallion.
Yes.
And you saw the shitstorm that came down with the medallions. So.
Yes.
Well, we did, but let me just play devil's advocate for a second. Okay, so it's not the drivers that are valuable. Now it's the vehicles that are valuable, and that'll obviously raise the value of the vehicles. But one of the reasons the medallion system kind of worked, at least for a little while, is that, okay, once you got the medallion, you could go out and you could charge what you wanted. There's like, with the exception of like the people who are lending out the medallions, if you own a medallion, you can charge what you want. With Uber, unless they actually pay the drivers better, unless they treat them better, no one's going to go out of their way to get these cars for a 60 cents a mile job. No one's going to pay $1 million for a car for a job that pays that little. So you could say that, okay, it's going to be limiting it, and yeah, you'd be created a medallion system, but hey, the people who have the vehicles now that are licensed, they're going to be making real money potentially. Now, is that not a good thing compared to a bunch of people making crap?
I don't know. Is it a good thing to tell somebody you can't do the job that you want to do, whether you make money or not? You know, this is America. People ought to be able to take their try at grabbing the golden ring.
Well, they're not saying you can't do that technically. They really are not. I mean,
well, they're making it harder for you to do it, for sure.
Any harder than getting any job? I mean, really, most jobs that you go to have a limit to how many employees they have because they just don't need them.
Yeah,
but we're independent contractors. This is not a job, and that's the difference.
And and that's the next point I was going to bring up. It's like, now that does bring into question, and I guess this is the next question of the debate. What's going on back there? What?
I think that's okay. Cecily's mind.
Yeah.
There we go.
Something was going on. Something was going on there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. My iPad's connected to my. It's just a lot.
You gotta love it live. But that's the next. But then, of course, that's the next question, and we'll actually open with Mark on this one because now there are real restrictions. I mean, I think let's not kid ourselves. There's a lot of restrictions on Uber, but there's now some real tangible restrictions that they aren't putting on us. The state is putting on them, or the city, I should say. So does that still make us independent contractors then, or does the system have to be completely rethought now that they're basically giving licenses to the vehicles, not the drivers? So yeah, Mark, continue.
Well, I have thought a long time ago, based on the control that Uber has over its drivers, we're not really independent contractors. They have figured out ways to siphon off the money. through things like upfront pricing. And I saw a recent article. I'm going to have to reference it. I was going to make a video on it later this week, where someone was talking about how drivers will take, longer trips in order to increase their fares.
Yep.
And maybe some of you saw that. And, that's nothing new to all of us, right? Mm-hmm. But that story was drawing a bad conclusion because they were basing their numbers on Uber taking 25%, and we all know that doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't.
So I just think that, in the scheme of things, I don't want to be an employee, but I don't believe that Uber drivers are really independent contractors either, because they don't have the freedom that a true independent contractor has. So
True.
I'm on the fence about this. We're not recognized as employees. I don't want to be employees, but I think they need to create some kind of a different category for the new gig economy, because this is something that our country has never faced before.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, your personal driver was on a live podcast several months ago, and when we we were discussing the independent contractor status, and he said, I am an independent contractor, but I feel like an employee, which was pretty much a great way to sum it up. So, Cecily, your thoughts?
Just to say, I've been an independent contractor for like 20 years, and this is this.
Oh yeah, you're an
Uber,
actress.
but I mean, I've done other things too. I mean, ever since I could, I've worked for myself even when I've had regular jobs, and there's no way you could tell me that Uber or any of these other app-based jobs are independent contractors. I don't have the freedom to do the things I want to. Now I do them because I can, and because I'm that confident where I'm like, oh no, Uber, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Cecily's going to do this way. And it works. It worked. You know what I mean? But it's not the same thing as starting your own business or having your own business. And one thing I've said on my channel is, if you've ever wanted to kind of explore that entrepreneurial spirit, try this. Because there's a lot of restriction, but there's a lot of freedom. And then you can say, hey, I kind of like this freedom and I want to take it a step further. I've always looked at this as a transitional kind of thing, not a career. And so while I think that it's not fair for them to put the cap on what's happening in New York, I think people fizzle out. People don't last in this business very long.
Exactly.
There's very few OGs, and an OG is like a guy who's been doing it for maybe 3-4 years. That's not a lot of time, So I mean, I think that just just letting the cards fall where they may is really I think the best way to go about this. And I think I was talking to Kevin about this a couple months back. We were talking about how Uber wanted to get in the transportation business, and they had all these ideas about what they were going to do to just transform transportation in general. But my question is, like, what are your thoughts on congestion? What are your thoughts on how, you're bragging about how many cars are on the road, but you're not the only car on the road. Like, doesn't that contribute to pollution and all kinds of things? Like, where's the responsibility to?
Yeah, they're claiming
where's that conversation happening?
They're bragging about how many cars are on the road, while at the same time saying, no, we're not responsible for congestion.
Man, if you don't get out of here. That's kind of like Disney going like, well, we're not creating unfair competition with Avengers. We're not gobbling the competition. Someone says, yeah, well, in the local theaters, you're on like 5 out of the 10 screens. That's half the theater you've got, and that's just one movie. Yeah,
it's like there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. So, Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'm kicking around this idea of classification. Kevin, to your point, I don't believe, I've never really been on the side of wanting to be an employee. I'm just thinking about potential more. Well, let's think about this. Let me throw this out there because this relates too. Think about Amazon Flex. Amazon Flex, as an independent contractor, you have to schedule block time with Amazon Flex. Oh my God. If you want to talk about blurring the lines between independent contractors, you have to schedule with them a block. Now, you can go online and take requests, but think about that. And I think, I see you guys talking in the live chat here about kicking around these classification ideas, is that ruling with 3 drivers here in California that were ruled they were due unemployment benefits from Uber, and that's in the whole process. Uber is going to fight that, tooth and nail. But I mean, it comes down to the earnings potential for me. It's like, we're talking about saturation in this cap. It comes down to flexibility. That's what I like about being an independent contractor. That's why I went for rideshare initially. I think a lot of us do. Flexibility and earnings potential. So if one of those things changes, right? If the earnings potential decreases from rideshare, that I feel like it absolutely has in the past year and a half, especially, I'm moving to other venues. I'm moving to other things. Or if the control of classification changes, if it becomes more like an employee, or if it does become an employee, and there's more changes, again, I'm stepping away from something. I just think that's smart looking at these side gigs. That's why I always say to have multiple side gigs. But I mean, in short, yeah, I mean, I like the independent contractor. I like flexibility. Who knows if that's going to change with Uber.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Amazon, because one of my more popular recent videos was talking about their delivery, basically their McDonald's delivery thing that's going on, where it's like, hey, we want you to deliver our packages and be like a franchisee. So you put like $100,000 into it or something like that, and it might be 30,000, and we'll lend you the cars, and you have your own boss. You've got your first client, but one of the strings attached is that once they lend you those cars, you can only deliver exclusively for Amazon, or else they pull the cars. And it's like, well, that definitely blurs the line.
What?
Because here I am spending a lot of money, my own money, on a business that I want to grow. And basically you're saying, well, we'll give you a helping hand, but you have to only deliver for us until, or else you're going to lose your trucks.
That's some trade-off for just kind of the vehicle. I mean, you can source a vehicle other ways, of course.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I actually know your personal driver was considering doing this, and I've told him, like, hey, I think that's a really bad idea. But talk about blurring the lines so much. And I hate Amazon.
When I first started this job, and there was a guy, I'm not going to say his name, but there was a guy who was watching my videos, and I had like the sticker. Look, I don't want to start anything. This is just a story about what Cecily does. So this is not advice.
Here it comes, guys. Here it comes.
So like he saw that I had the the Uber sticker in my window. And he was like, you need to take that SHIT off your car. And I'm like, really? He was like, it's your car. It is Cecily's Uber service. It is not, it is not Uber. He was like, you do whatever you want to do the way you want to do it. If people don't like it, who cares? It's your MF car. And I was like, really? That's what we're doing? That's what we're doing? Okay. And I took my decals off because one, I didn't want people to, I didn't want people to walk up to my car and get into it, which would happen all the time while I was just sitting there at lights and stuff. But, I had not
or
used
come up
that.
to you while you're shooting a video with a co-host and
right. Like just random stuff. Like how many times have you guys had someone just jump in your car and startle you to death? But so
it happened to Peter Griffin.
Really?
Yeah, Family Guy did an Uber episode.
That's funny. That's funny. But long story short, that was one of many things I kind of just made an adjustment to, and it worked. And no one ever complained. No one ever said anything. No one ever said, "Hey, I thought you were an Uber. Why don't you have your decal?" It was never anything like that. And I was like, once he gave me that advice, I kind of took that approach, and I mean, it worked. And so I think even in these situations where they tell you can't, there's always room for you to do something your way as long as you're making money. And,
hey, speaking of, sorry, not to interrupt.
Go ahead, jump in.
I just wanted to touch on that last point. Speaking of you can't from Uber, hey, Kevin, how about the you can't with Rapify, you can't with back in the day with Vugo, and oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, no, all this control. And maybe that kind of brings us back to the New York cap thing, and maybe why I'm not personally bothered by it as much, because it's like, what, they've been telling me for a long time, you can't do this, and finally someone pushed back and said, we really don't care that you're more convenient for people. You can't do this because you break the rules all the time, and you always ask for leniency, but you won't pay anyone good. So we're gonna reel it in. you know, you're going to be playing by the rules just a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit at the very least.
Yeah.
Now, again, as Mark has probably been the most vocal against it. And you know what? His opinions are very, very valid. And I hate to say it, he might probably be ultimately right out of all of us in the long term.
Well, you know, but Kevin, what I say here, and I think you are validating my point, that the people that are against this are against it for emotional reasons. Ooh. Just like you're angry about Uber, so you emotionally support it. But you see, I like to think of myself as a thinking man. No offense, but I think the people get so ticked off and they get so angry at me. Well, and they're just coming down on me. It's all because of emotions. And you see, you got to take emotions out of this and stand back and look at the big picture and what's really happening. Mm. And thank you for saying I might be right for a change.
Well, for the record, I have taken a step back too, and you know, I don't completely do, but I've seen them do enough bad stuff. It's like, you know, I'm willing to give this a try as kind of like an experiment. And by the way, the law was. It's funny that we're talking about this day because today was the day the bill was signed into law.
To cheers of cab drivers and union people.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I definitely have issues with unions. I have ever since I saw Waiting for Superman, which it's like, no wonder kids don't get a good education. But
could I throw something out real quick for everybody?
Sure.
I do want to know, you know, when we talk, well, move on. I'm going to formulate this thought a little clearer before I ask you something, okay? So I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Well, hopefully you can formulate soon, because I think we're coming to the end of this particular topic.
Yeah.
We got something else big coming up here.
So we've got two, you know, one person, it's actually kind of like a little bit of a scale. At the, you know, you have Mark, who's really against it, Cecily, who's still pretty much against it, me, who is sort of for it, but seeing the points, and then you have Mike, who seems for it. So, that's really interesting how that worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is why podcasts and doing it live can be so much fun. You get a bunch of people with different points of view in the same room. In fact, I actually can't even think of another time where all of us really had very different reactions to a news story.
True.
Yeah.
We usually we're on the same side most of the time.
Yeah, we usually are, or there's like a lone dissenting voice. But what's also nice is that we actually just discuss it, and hey, we're gonna agree to disagree. But you know, I think we are all better off for having disagreed in a civil way, passionate as we might have been. So, Mark, I guess you can, if you haven't formulated your opinion, what you wanted to say, I'm going to.
No, move on to the next. Move on.
Okay. Well, in that case,
this episode.
Yeah, maybe that'll be the next episode. Yeah. We will add like a little bit of I will add a little comment though, that people who disagree with other people's opinion on this, you know what? Just, it's their opinion. It doesn't make them an idiot, and you don't have to harass them about it. And it's just going to leave it at that. Topic that we might possibly agree on, maybe, I don't know. But hey, remember that new app that we all laughed about several months ago? It went live. It finally went live, and I got it. And believe it or not, I have driven with it. I actually broke my boycott over. I drove.
It's been like 3-4 months.
Something like that. I had to get my vehicle re-examined, and I did it just so I could try this app, and because I need to get a new computer, and it's just not in the budget. So Rideshare does have some practicality when you need an unexpected expense paid. I will say, but I've been driving with it, and well, here's the thing. I'm a little torn because I don't hate it as much as I thought I would. I was thinking it would be completely pointless, but you know what? It's had some nice features. I mean, I do like being able to see the progression of how much money I'm making. And when it alerts me of a trip, they've got more information there, and that's kind of nice. And I guess, yeah, if you tap it, it's easier than the swipe. Although, with that said, it has turned on a couple times that I didn't want it to turn on because it is just tapping. But I guess the big point is that, does anyone have the app, and what do you think about it?
Don't have it here in San Diego. I know you guys have it up there in LA, or at least on a beta test, I think.
Okay, so I have it. I haven't used it. I thought, well, I see how the earnings tracker works. In theory, I can't really speak to that, but the maps really is what I really liked about it. The map maneuvers and all that kind of stuff I thought was pretty cool. Does it help you get to your destination better? I don't know. But the effects are cool.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second, because they did remove a few things that I thought were interesting. Okay. Mark, do you have the app? Have you tried it?
I do not have it, and I've been out of town for a few days, but I just turned on my app again, and I'm not seeing any difference, so it probably didn't open in my market yet.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, I made a whole video review of it and then had to add a little bit for when I'm driving. But there's at least a couple things that they took away from it, which... Okay, there's 3 things I took away from it, if my notes here are correct. And I might discover more at a later date. But the first thing that they took away, talking about the maps, this is what I guess I'll ask about this first. One of the things they have changed about the app is that if you're driving, the driver can no longer change the destination address. It has to be the passenger now. And, I found that out when someone said, hey, I need to stop here first. Can you change the address? And I went to change it, and I couldn't do it. And I said, I guess you have to change it. And then they fiddled around with it for like 5, maybe 7 minutes while they couldn't figure out how to do it. And then I finally figured it out for them. But yeah, the driver can no longer change the address for the destination of the passenger. And that's a change that's like, okay, on one hand, I understand why you're doing that, because that's a way to do driver fraud. Essentially, you change the address, you drive a little extra, you make some more money, and the person who you dropped off drunk is none the wiser. They come up with a much higher bill, and they're like, what happened? And
you can just circle the block a couple times.
There's this whole back and forth. You can't. Well, if they're drunk, but
if they're drunk, they don't know. I'm not encouraging anyone to do this. I'm just
no, and I'm not encouraging anyone. I'm not encouraging anyone to do this either, but I know people who, like, let's say they drove really far out of their way and they're like on a surge and the person's like practically passed out and they stumble out of the car. Rather than end the trip and just drive home on their own dime, they will change the address to someplace close to their home.
Yeah.
So that they can get most of those miles paid for. So I understand why they took that away. But then on the other hand, this is probably a really big inconvenience, because the reason you could do that yourself at first, because some people are not very responsive.
Yes.
And they don't, and even if they are responsive, they don't know how to do it. Like this person that I was dealing with, and they were totally sober and everything. They just didn't know what they were doing. Exactly. And I ultimately had to help them anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess the first question with the new app, is that something they should have taken away? I guess we'll start with Mike on this one.
Well, I'm trying to think of how many times I had a passenger ask me to change the ending destination. I don't know. I don't think it was like a ton of times, but and I get the point of preventing fraud. But what if you actually need to change it for some, like Kevin, like you mentioned? I mean, sure, if the passenger doesn't know how to use the app, I guess that they can't even change the ending destination. I don't know. I feel like knee jerk, it's like not that crazy big of a deal, but I feel like also there are times where you would need to change it quickly. I don't know. I'm pretty middle of the road there.
Okay, Mark, you're our most active driver. What do you think of that?
It's never been a big issue for me, and I've generally found that you can drop them off if you want. It goes by minutes and miles anyway, so it's not that big a stink. But I don't know. It happens so seldom. I don't think that it really has any impact.
Okay, Cecily.
Same thing. I don't think I would have noticed it until I was like actually making a change. I've never had to change it on my end. And to be quite honest, I mean, if you just take the person where they need to go, the app will adjust and you'll get charged, and they'll get charged accordingly. So, I mean,
Exactly.
my thoughts are like this. If this was about preventing fraud, like try harder. But it just, to me, it just seems like maybe there wasn't a lot of like good use of that particular option, and so they decided just to scale it back for this release.
Right. Well, here's my thoughts on this. Yeah, you're right. If you want to prevent fraud, try harder, because not that I'm encouraging anyone to do fraud, but if you need to put in an address that's different from the app, use Waze. Just put the address in Waze, and although then that creates a problem, because if it shows that you're ending the trip at not your destination, then I don't know exactly what happens at that point, because I've never actually tried it, and I got a computer to save up for, a desktop, so I sure as heck ain't gonna be the guinea pig on that one. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, it's I don't know. I guess it's kind of like taking the pictures of the ticket stubs on MoviePass. I understand it, but it is so inconvenient.
Well, I can't speak for everyone, but as Cecily said, I have at times someone said, "Oh, I needed to go here." I drop them off, and it's never been a big deal. I just get paid for where I end up. I've never been challenged by it.
Me either. No one's ever said anything about that or nothing, ever.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that was the first thing they took away. I think we're all, I personally wish they hadn't taken it away, but it doesn't seem like most of us really care. The second thing they took away, and confident no one's going to care about this one, they took away the display on the acceptance rating. You know how it used to say that, how many percentage of rides you're accepting. Right. They took it away. I personally do not care at all, because the acceptance rating has not affected anyone for almost a year. I'm amazed that they kept track of it even after it was not going to affect anything. It doesn't even affect the bonuses anymore. Like, I remember it used to be like, oh, you have to take 30 rides.
Oh, heck yeah.
And you have to have like a 90% acceptance. Ooh. Then it became, you just have to accept 30 rides. So why they were still keeping track of it, I don't know. Or are we on the same page that nobody cares that was taken away?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. The third thing, and this one maybe you will care. They also took away the cancellation rate percentage display, which, surprise, surprise, I looked it up on their TOS, and yeah, you can still get fired for having a high cancellation rate. So, and let's see if I can say cancellation properly this whole time, because, my autistic self screwed up the pronunciation when I reported that in my review, and I got so much flack for it. But yeah, so now you can't.
Can you say Tempe?
Tempe.
Can I say Tempe? Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He said it. Leave him alone.
Hey.
So what do you
look,
think,
if you want, I'm frankly furious that they review. A setup for what?
Did they remove the cancellation rate so that you can just drive blindly and not know? So are they getting rid of some of the bad actors that are on this platform, or what? Because you can kind of look at that and be like, well, I don't want to go too far to the right. Let me straighten up a little bit.
Well, here's the thing. At the moment, and I'm saying at the moment because you never know what's going to happen. If you want to see what your cancellation rate is, you can go to the partner's website and find out. So you can find out there. But on the app itself, you have no way of knowing. And the fact that you can be deactivated, or at the very least put in a severe timeout for like a week or so for having a high cancellation rate, I am actually very furious that they remove that, because I agree with Cecily. I think that is like driving blind. If there is something there that could get you fired, And I know that they don't use that term because that would, insinuate that we're employees. I think that, hey, if this can affect your employment status or your ability to drive for them, you need to be able to be aware of it at any moment without jumping through hoops. That's
right.
And so that I do not like them taking away.
And it looks like Eric Edwards in our live chat is saying that the cancellation rate will come back, according to Eric. I'm not sure if that's displaying within the app and or deactivating drivers for cancellation rate, but he mentions that's coming back.
Well, with all due respect to Eric, who is he and how does he know that?
I don't know. Eric, how do you know the inside info? Let's say the Green Light Hub told me that.
Okay.
The Green Light Hub, yeah. To the hub, but I'm going to kind of treat them like the quote unquote geniuses at the Apple stores. I don't think they're fully aware of what's going on in the company, because why take it away? Why even take it away at all if it's going to come back? That's my question. That's another question I have in that regard. Well, we don't know if it's coming back anyway. Right now, what we do know is that it's not there. So it was right of them to take that off the app when your job can kind of be dependent on it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that drivers look at least, depends on where you are in doing your job. If you do a good job, you probably don't have to walk that fine line. The cancellation rate is something you glance at every now and then. And then, for bonuses, back in the day, you had to have a certain cancellation rate as well to get bonuses. So, I just think that I think it's a setup.
Yeah, well, especially since they've even gotten draconian on the cancellation rate, where it used to be when you cancel, there would be certain reasons that if you selected that as the cancellation reason, you wouldn't get penalized for it, like if they didn't show up.
Yeah.
But now they do penalize you even if they didn't show up. So it's actually, in my opinion, it's more important to know what that statistic is before you log off that night. And it kind of even worked out better for Uber in a strange way to have that information there, because if you saw that it was oh, my cancellation rate is at 10%, well, maybe I'll take 2 more rides to get it down to 6. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I've done it.
Yeah, I've done it.
I've done it. Wait, what? What happened? Oh gosh, here we go.
Yeah, you don't want to get that. You do not want to get that little email from Uber saying so do you know how many rides you canceled? You get. After a while, you kind of realize that they're just scare tactic emails. When you first start getting them, it's
True. But we all know people that have lost their access to the platform because they've canceled too much. We all know people that have done it, so we know it's possible. Just don't stay in that threshold.
Oh yeah, and fairly recently, someone mentioned they lost it because they had 9 people who did not show up, so they canceled. They ended up having more no shows than they had actual rides, and on that basis they got a 2-week suspension from Uber.
Yikes. That's messed up.
So it's that's messed up, and nothing else to do. Mark, you've been silent about this. What do you think of this?
I'm trying to figure out if we're upset with their cancellation policies or if we're upset with the fact they're not letting us track it. Because I'm seeing this.
Well, but right now we're specifically talking about them not letting us track it.
And the thing is we can track it. You can go to the partner website and you can see it there. It's there. But the thing is that when you're in your car and you're rolling around and you're in between, pickups and things like that, it's harder to do all that. You can definitely queue it in your, have the browser open it up and stuff, but it's just not sitting there right there on the app, we're just talking about just having ease of use. It used to be there, now it's not.
Well, I kind of agree. It's been said already. If it's something that's going to affect us, we should be able to see it and access it pretty simply. Other than that, what do I think of the cancellation policy in itself? I rarely cancel rides. I just don't do it. But if you're following their policy, their 5-minute wait and you cancel, that should not have an adverse effect. But as you know, what happens is, and that scam has been going on, it hasn't stopped, where the drivers, particularly at places like, where is it? Okay, for example, Orlando Airport is an example. I think Miami has the same thing, where your pickup and your drop-off areas are on 2 separate levels above one another.
Mm-hmm.
And so what the drivers would do is they would intentionally go on the wrong level, sit for 5 minutes to take off, and then get in line again and, collect a free $5 or whatever and not have to drive a single mile. To me, it seems like, kind of being penny wise and dollar foolish, but nevertheless, I think that's one of the reasons they were driven to do that.
Mm. Okay.
And then silence set in.
Yeah, no. Well, we are more specifically talking about the ability to track, especially. Well, we're talking about the app specifically because the app was, first of all, it was what we wanted. This is what we wanted more than a pay raise. And,
wait.
Of course, we all
so
laugh
this,
at that. Like,
this
pretty,
app rollout
pretty
is
extensive.
Thank you for that, Kevin.
In a podcast, like, yeah, no, it's not. We want another $1 a mile, you cheapskates.
So,
but they insisted that not only did we want it, this would go ahead.
This app is the result of the driver's panel, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. The live stream
no, I get into it. Oh, not only did they give us the app that we really wanted, it's like they gave it to us with less features because it's supposed to work better for us.
So really, what took place in that room? Was it what don't you need? Because I'm not being sold on the things that we asked for, the things
apparently
that we want,
apparently the driver said, yeah, we would like key information that could be relevant to us staying on the platform, the ability to change the items.
Well, the only thing that's missing is seeing Devious Dara go out and take it.
I don't know. I feel like it must have been akin to the film producers making Tom to Hanna-Barbera saying, "Is this?" Oh yeah, that's one of my most viewed videos. Is when I actually that video and I'm critical because it's so fake, but that we never asked for and convenient. And did room? I mean, I know I harp much, but it's worth harping on. Did life so hard that we change? Nobody raise their hand all at once and say, "Yeah, no, that was difficult. I'm glad we just have to tap it now."
I can't really hear some.
You dropped out there, Kevin. We didn't hear your question.
Oh, darn! I was on a roll too.
Now you're a little.
Okay. Well, I guess I will go again. But did anyone in this room ever seriously say out loud, "This button swipe is so difficult"? I just wish I had
never.
Nope.
Never.
Well, remember, this was the big live stream, guys. If no one knows what we're talking about. The live stream from Uber that was done on like YouTube and who knows where else, watched by 8,000 people when it happened in April for the live stream. This was this big thing. Uber's never really done this. A lot of hype for this. There's a good amount of hype for at least a week before this live stream. We all thought like, this is it. And it was from like Dara himself and some of the team members there. Were like, this is a big deal. This is going to be big. And then they said, we have this driver panel. We talked to you guys. Here's what we're bringing to you. And it's like, and then it opens up to this, new driver app experience. And we're all like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a really weird experience where it's like, I am somehow not surprised and yet still extremely disappointed in extreme ways.
It's just a waste of time to put together the panel, to do this big rollout, all that stuff. It just really It's like, are you insulting our intelligence right now? What should we really be talking about?
Oh, and then they really insulted everyone's intelligence, because here's another thing that, just in case you guys are not aware, when this thing was going live, one of the things that Dara stressed over and over again, I recall, we are here for the drivers. We are listening to you. We are here to take your constructive criticism, and we are going to take that feedback, and we are going to be a better company. And then they were going to have a Q&A with Harry Campbell, the rideshare guy. They didn't broadcast it, and they disabled the comments on the video.
Right. Yep.
So yeah, clearly our feedback was very important to them throughout this whole process.
Boy, I mean, it's a difficult conversation for them to have, because drivers have been unhappy for a very long time. But my thing is, like, don't pretend that your basic outreach is really changing the minds of, even the opinions of the drivers. Like, don't play us, because if you can see people complaining all over the place, every platform.
Yeah, exactly.
So my thing is, like, really get to the root of the problem, or just ignore me. Either way, I won't be here forever. And neither will y'all. So
yeah. I'm going to say about that, and then I think we'll move on. I think we're in agreement the new app is not impressive at all. But if I could pinpoint a moment in time where the Uber dream just died and I kind of saw the community kind of just give up, that was it. That was it.
Yeah.
I had my highest numbers during that whole fiasco, and a lot of regulars that were always gung-ho about, I'm going to change, let's change Uber, let's do this, let's do that. They just dispersed. They realized, shoot, this isn't going to, they are never going to listen to me, and this isn't even worth fighting for anymore. So that's when I noticed a big shift in the rideshare community, just basically giving up that there was any hope of this getting better. So, personal opinion. But you know what might make things better is a new rideshare app, because there is a lot of people don't realize this. There is a new rideshare app out called Reach Now.
Yep.
Have any of you guys heard of this, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
I've read about it.
I think I did a video on it quite some time ago when they first announced it.
Yeah, well, that shows how long it's been since we got together.
Well, it does, no kidding.
Yeah, but I mean, this is still something that I think is worth in light of the New York City vehicle cap, when we're discussing about employees and independent contractor status, because Reach Now is a product from BMW cars, and they make those fancy cars. And they basically decided they wanted to do an Uber and Lyft service, but theirs is very different. First of all, they are going to provide the cars. You're not using your own vehicle. They are providing the cars. That's the first major thing.
Right.
The second major thing, and the much, much bigger deal, is that they up front said, you are employees. You're not independent contractors. You are employees. And as a result, you will have a uniform. You will make $14 an hour. You will accumulate sick days and vacation days.
Nice.
And otherwise, it works exactly the same as Uber and Lyft. And I actually remember making a video being fairly excited about the concept, because it's like, you know what? Yeah, maybe this is a good way to kind of test it out, because here we have a company that is basically doing Uber and Lyft, but you are employees. There's no illusions here. You work for them. You can't just do whatever you want. You work for them. But some of the things that we have been asking for, better pay and vacation and sick time and not putting so much wear on my poor little Corolla, that's all going to be addressed. So I was excited for the idea. And I guess to kind of get the conversation rolling about the debate, well, actually, I'll hold that off for later. First of all, I will ask all you guys, what do you this?
What do we think of it?
Yeah, like would you want to drive for an Uber service where, you know, you're an employee, you are officially an employee?
I would consider it. I would consider it.
Okay.
I like to have my free time, so I don't know, but I would try it to see what it was like. We haven't heard anything beyond like I mean, I've heard you say like the $14 an hour and that sort of thing. Is that the Seattle market, or is that going to be a national thing? Because I think they're just in Seattle right now, right?
As you were talking, Kevin, I actually downloaded it while you were talking because I've never really heard of this. Seattle, Portland, Brooklyn, and then Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's not everywhere just
that's
yet.
it.
Right.
So I'm assuming that depending on the region will kind of depend on how much you get paid. Exactly. I suspect if they launch in LA, they'd probably have to start at 16 or 17 an hour.
Exactly.
Really
well, you know, Seattle's not a cheap city either, though. I mean, Seattle's going to be higher than St. Louis.
Yeah. Thank you, Amazon and Microsoft.
Yeah, Seattle
and Starbucks.
It's still not as expensive as things are here in LA, though.
No, absolutely not. But you have your own set of problems there in Southern California, so.
Yeah. Well, heck, I'm probably going to move back to Sacramento and just say to heck with this.
Really? Oh, I'm never going back. I'm never going back to Sacramento.
But they have that little town in Sacramento.
Yeah, I have been for 20 years. That's enough.
Well, anyway, I'm sure the pay will be different depending on where it is, but and maybe it is worth bringing up now because after I did this video, I was actually fairly blown away with how many people hated this idea. How many people just absolutely did not want to do this. They did not want to be an employee. And I think it showed me something. It showed me that people, and I think this is why you still see Uber and Lyft getting away with it, because as much as we complain about it, I think the idea like, yeah, you can do this whenever you want and you don't, at least in theory, makes it so appealing they will defend it and drive for it to a fault. Yeah. Some of those people who are driving 70 hours a week and making $2,000, they can't do that on Reach now. They would have a set schedule. Yeah. And as some people pointed out, with Surge, you could conceivably, on some days, make way more than $14 an hour, which you could. I'm not saying you're not, although I would argue with, considering that I've been averaging, $12 to $10 an hour when I have gotten back into it, you would probably work out better in the long term with $14 an hour. So I guess here's the question. Like, how should I word this? Do you think people are just so intent on keeping their independent contractor status that even if a potentially better deal that would work for them comes up, they wouldn't do it?
I don't think so. I mean, I remember there was a slew of guys that I came in with. We were all making those big $500 bonuses, week after week. It was crazy. And I remember when they... I remember when they fizzled out and it was like this big thing to get all these Google jobs. Like Google hired all these folks, that'll with the map camera thing. There was a ton of guys who were getting those jobs and they were so relieved because they could work 40 hours a week and get a set paycheck. So, I mean, I think sometimes you do get tired of chasing the carrot, but for these types of jobs is that you have your own schedule. That's why we're all here. I mean, for the most part. I mean, I can't say all because some people just really need to get some money and quickly, but you get to do it on your own time. Yeah,
I'll add to that. Whenever you asked Cecily initially, Kevin, she said she'd consider it. I definitely consider it too, because I mean, a uniform, I don't really care. I mean, if it's a polo or whatever, it's not about that. If it's about setting block time, we were talking about Amazon Flex, I wouldn't mind that. If it is scheduled, if it's and again, Amazon Flex is really pushing the line there. But let's say
is it even flexible when you have to get a block?
You can go again. You can go online like whenever, and they'll send you instant offers. But I get what you mean there. And
they're
by
hard
the way,
to get.
I was just going to say that it's like impossible to get Amazon. Come on, guys.
Sorry.
But I'm a great assessing. No worries. So you just threw me off there thinking about Amazon Flex. Anyway, okay, sorry, I got it. So we're talking about being an employee with this Reach Now. I would consider it, but not at $14. I think some of you guys here in the live chat, we're thinking more of 18. Because again, why would I drive for Reach Now when I could get an Amazon Flex block for 18? Now here's something to consider though, is if it is 14, I'm assuming that's 14 net because you're an employee, you're W-2, they're withholding taxes, versus that 18 on Amazon Flex, that's pre-tax. So if it equals out based on the taxation, then maybe I'll take the 14. I'd have to run those numbers, I guess. But
when you're also getting vacation and sick days, that's actually pretty valuable.
Definitely. So there's that as well. So yeah, I consider that at least.
Okay. Now, Mark, would you consider it?
I would rather have someone stick needles under my eyelids.
I think that's a no from Mark. That's a no.
I was going to bring up kind of what Mike said from a little different perspective, though. We're driving someone else's vehicles, so of course we are not getting wear and tear in our vehicles, but we are also not getting the tax benefits. And so many people overlook that. I try to pound that into people's heads. You know, most of my life I've been self-employed, and the reason we're able to do that is because you can play the tax game really, really well. You know, $14 an hour, I doubt if that's net. That has got to be your pay. And so now you're going to get taxed on that. You're going to get FICA. You're going to get Social Security. Well, you get Social Security anyways. But you're going to get you're going to lose your tax advantages. You know, depreciation of vehicle and just every other little thing you can possibly think of. And so, what do you get on a 40-hour week? $560, something like that, right? I can make that in 2.5 days driving now. Now, the comment was just made on the stream that, well, this is an upper end, right? Because you're going to be, you know, talking about someone picking you up in a Beamer and the price a little higher. Daniel Roman said here, you know, with tips, you might go over $20 an hour. There's something to be said about that because people that are hiring a higher level of vehicle are probably the type of person that is going to tip better. So I think that Daniel might be onto something there. There could be something in the tipping. But you know what? Like you said earlier, Kevin, I'll let somebody else be the guinea pig.
Yeah, well, also as one of the few people who knows what you do, I don't know if it would benefit you personally to have a Reach Now job and basically have to do it every week. I mean, that is where Rideshare's a little bit more convenient if you are doing it on the side, which apparently that's a lot more people than it used to be. And heck, again, even I'm doing a little bit more driving right now, and it was partly to test out the new app, and then there was another part of me where it's like, yeah, this laptop sucks. I really need a new desktop. And I took one of the to do is like have a goal, reach the goal, and then stop. So once I get the new computer, I'll stop. But till then, it is nice to have in the back of the pocket, although I hear my car whining like, I thought we were done doing this.
My car is doing that now.
Yeah, so sorry, Mia. I'm gonna have to go a little further. So anyway, but here's like the second question. Again, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if any of you guys made videos about this. I was just really surprised. Like, people did not just reject this idea; they viciously rejected it, as if like this was going to bring out about the end of rideshare. And I don't know. It was like, boy, I might be underestimating just how powerful an idea it is to set your own schedule. even if from my perspective, many of the terms on Reach Now are far more favorable than those on Uber and Lyft.
Yeah, could I jump in on something here? Because you talked about a part-time job, and there was an interesting comment that just popped up regarding you can't do Uber as a side job in New York City anymore because you have your licenses and you have your fees and you have this and that and this and that. And I just want to come back around because one of the things that I think people also miss is they're, giving a big hurrah for the capping in New York. And this comes in really big because what they're saying is, well, we want more legislation to combat the legislation that's already in place. And they don't realize, if you just throw the bums out in the first place and let things go the way it's supposed to, maybe we won't have as big of a problem. So I'm sorry for backtracking, but I saw this comment pop up and I just wanted to take a moment to address that because that's something we hear a lot. And this is Sketch1001 made that comment, but it's something we hear a lot from New York City drivers, is about all the expenses to be a driver. You can't do a part-time. And, thank New York for that because they're the ones that put the original restrictions in place in the first place.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And yeah, Mark, you're probably right. This is probably going to work out not so well. But again, I'm willing to give it a shot myself.
I am in the stick it to Uber camp. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's a good idea. I said in one of my videos, just because I'm coming down on one side doesn't mean I approve of the other side. The analogy I drew is if you're coming down on a cop for police brutality, it doesn't mean you approve of what the criminal did. You just don't approve of how the cop's handling it,
No, that's true. And someone was like, when they're talking about the potential Seattle union, and Seattle's like looking for I think $18 or $20 an hour, and a lot of people are saying like, oh, but if they approve that, we might not be able to make more money. And of course, my question is, well, are you making $20 consistently? I kind of doubt you are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, I kind of wonder how much of our fear, well, if that limits us, then we can never go over it. Because, here's the thing. We've talked about before the unicorn rides where you get a high surge and it's like, you make $100 in 30 minutes. It's like, shoot, that is really nice. And you would hate for it to go away. But then I'm kind of looking at well, Uber's already making it go away with their upfront pricing and their upfront surge. And, so I'm just kind of like, you know what? I'm perfectly fine with, even if it's not a long-term solution, like Uber realizing that, hey, they may want to start playing nice with everyone because as one state has just shown, they're willing to stick it to them if they have to.
Right, that's true.
Now, what I want to know is, will Reach Now pay time and a half for overtime?
Ooh.
Well, they probably will if it's considered a job, but like any job that I've worked at, they will probably go out of their way to not approve it.
I feel like if it's an app, they'll only let you block up to 40 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, but of course, that also does bring the question, though. What if, say, you've got 10 minutes left in your shift, so you pick up a ride, and the ride sends you an hour away,
right?
And that's not your fault. That's obviously the app's fault. Do you get the time and a half then, and do you get in trouble for that? That's a question that needs to be answered.
True.
But I don't know. But I don't know. I'm personally excited about Reach Now, and I'm
excited to use it.
Yeah, I mean, based on what I do, I don't think I'm going to have time to actually drive for Reach Now, especially since I will be an employee. Suddenly quitting would look bad on my resume, but I'm curious to see what it does for people personally.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they say there's no surge pricing. So even though you're paying $2.40 per mile and 40 cents a minute, I talked about, not the last time I was in New York, but the time prior, just a couple months back. And I got an upfront price of $115 to go from downtown Manhattan to Newark. And, I did that same thing.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying.
That's probably a $60 ride.
Right,
probably.
But we would never, if there's not a surge, I wonder, BMW, I don't know, the mileage, they'd kill you in the time, though, because you're going to get stuck going over there at 5 minutes,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking out loud here, if there might be times with the no surge, even though it's a pricier service, if it might come in under Uber because there's no surge.
No, it's very possible.
That's like those passengers that they would request Uber Select or something because it'd be actually cheaper than the surge in Uber X. Same thing.
Yeah. No, that
there
was
you
like
go.
a nice little hack.
You'd get like a BMW sometimes.
Yeah. You know who I bet's going to try this out when it comes to the town? I bet your ride with Peterson's going to give this a shot when it comes to California. Because he's already driving that BMW around, so and dressing up in that tie and everything. So he's probably used to this. We're gonna have to watch his videos to find out how it works. But anyway, so those were 3 good topics. Now, do we have time for a couple of questions, or we all want to get out of here?
Hey, could I put a quick scare into everybody?
Sure.
If you just recently, the news broke about the profits in the last quarter for Uber, and how things are dropping slightly, but they're still looking up. But there was one little sentence in there by Dastardly Dara that jumped out at me, and what he said is, well, we're looking at more profitable things like Uber Eats. Okay, we know that Eats is popular, and I'm one of the few people that like it. But he also snuck in there and pool, which tells me they are going to emphasize pool even more in order to show more profit on paper the coming year. I just wanted to throw that out.
Pool isn't profitable.
I was going to say
Uber Pool is not profitable. That loses them. That's like half of their losses right there. Just pool. Oh my gosh! Serious.
I'm not making it up. Don't shoot the messenger.
I know you're not making it up. Hey, Dar, you listening? You're a moron. You are a moron. I don't think you could make this company profitable if you tried. There, I said it. Idiot. Uber Pool. My gosh, they lose $1 million on Uber Pool in San Francisco every day alone. That is not a profitable service. It just encourages people to try out Uber. But you know what happens when one day they wake up and they realize, hey, we can't afford pool anymore, and they just continue pool? All those people, they'll go somewhere else. You idiots. Wow. Wow, this guy. Wow. Okay, I'm going to say it. Can we have Travis back? Seriously.
Wow.
At least he was fun. At least he was funny.
Wow.
Okay. Let's go to Q&A before I continue on.
Mike, can we bring this up, Mike? I don't know if you can see this, but folks are talking about rideshare drivers having business licenses here in California, and I don't know if anyone's covered that, but
actually we did do a podcast where we talked about that. You weren't here.
I guess not. Well, you've got some folks arguing.
I don't think Mike was here either. Now that I think about it,
doesn't ring a bell. But just in short, Kevin, they're talking about in California, if you reside in a major city, you need a business license. San Francisco is being kicked around. Some people saying you do need one. Some people saying that San Francisco recently changed it where you don't need one. I'm not an expert in the business license.
So I just posted a link. I'm anybody any advice about what's going on
cool.
in outside of LA, and really LA's business license things pertain to the city, and then there's county and all that. So I don't want to give you guys too specific information, but I did post the link in there, and I have like 2 business licenses, and so I kind of creatively put things in certain places, and so I've been doing that for the past couple of years, and they never came for me. Uber's not, they they haven't asked me for any additional money or anything like that. So, and I didn't have to, you don't have to pay for a business license here in Los Angeles. So if anybody is an LA driver and you're freaking out because you read that and you didn't know, it's not that big of a deal, but the city of LA just really wants to get their money. So if they find out that you even have like a, oh goodness, what is that called when you, it just fell out of my head. You buy things for wholesale. What is that thing called? That certificate?
Drop shipping?
No,
Reseller's permit?
An eBay store?
Yes, even if you have a reseller's permit, they will, and you don't have a business license, they will contact you and they will say you better get a business license. So, and they're really great at estimating. So if you don't report your earnings for you, and they will collect on those.
Well, I've got a business license. I had one before I even started driving for Uber, so this isn't gonna affect me at all. But yeah, guys. Of course, it was going to happen at some point. I mean, especially, and this is where Uber keeps getting themselves into trouble. I mean, they were bragging about like, oh, they're independent contractors. There's like 130,000 little businesses driving out there, and when they make a comment like that, of course, the state's response is going to be, so there's like 100,000 business licenses we're not collecting money on then.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Like Uber will throw the drivers under the bus to save their own skin. This was not a surprise to me at all.
It really will. And LA County is no joke.
Yeah. No. Yeah, no, LA, I don't even get me started on some of the There's a reason I'm considering going back to Sacramento. There really is.
Oh my gosh, this is not for real. I can't take it.
Well, look, you visit there. When you visit, we'll do more collabs and stuff like that.
There we go.
Stuff like that.
I know. It'll be so much more relaxed.
Actually, we actually need to do another collab video. It's been a while.
I know. I miss hanging out with you, so we definitely gotta do that.
Yeah. We'll get Katie to come with us, and we'll do dinner afterwards or something.
That would be awesome.
that would be a fun evening. But anyway, Mike, you are a resident chat watcher. Did anyone pose any questions that were worth answering?
More comments, more so, about LA, the business licenses. I don't see any specific questions.
No specific questions. So
scrolling through. Yeah.
That might be. Is that a first for us where we actually don't have any actual questions? It might be.
There's a ton of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, lots of comments.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, guys, thanks for being on the live stream. Everyone in the live chat right now.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. And hey, if you want to show your support, give us a thumbs up. That'd be much appreciated. Always helps with the Uber not the Uber, but the YouTube.
Too much Uber.
See, I've got
oh my.
Too much Uber today. After this, I'm gonna go to the movies. I'm going to unwind a bit. So anyway, I guess that's a good place to end it since we last chance. Are there any questions? Any questions? No. Kevin says,
which company do you hate more? Uber or Amazon? Kevin Anderson asks.
Hysterical.
Oh, Amazon. That is not even in a question for me. I mean, I'm actually gonna get a little Okay, for everyone listening and everyone in the podcast, I'm going to say something that you guys are probably going to venomously disagree with. Venomously, but I hate Amazon so much that I have actually had conversations with people at church arguing that if you shopped there, you couldn't truly be a Christian based on how this company conducts itself and treats people.
What?
I hate Amazon, and in my opinion, if the government regulated them, burned them to the ground, built them up just to regulate them again and publicly humiliate them. They could not do enough for that company. That would not. Amazon needs to die. I have not bought from them in I don't know how many years, and in fact, I have such strong feelings about it. Like, there were a couple years, like, we have like an organization for my brother's deceased wife who died in a tragic accident. And Amazon became a sponsor for a couple of years, and I did not attend the fundraising events while they were partnered with Amazon. I was so disgusted that they did that. So, yeah, Amazon, clear winner. I hate that company.
I've been a happy customer since 1999, so I can't relate. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, if you're a customer, they're great. If you're a customer, they're great. And I used to buy from them too, but when I found out how they treated their employees, when I saw how they treated me with the third-party seller, when I started seeing all the businesses close because you just simply can't compete with Amazon. Yeah. Amazon lost money for like 15 years because their whole business model was like, we are going to sell everything at a loss and we're going to put everyone out of business. And it's very, very hard to compete with a company that doesn't need to make money.
Yeah.
It's very hard. And I just looked on balance and I said, you know what? I just can't do it. This is not healthy for me. This is not healthy for anyone. We are screwing ourselves. And by the way, just to let everyone know, because of a deal that Amazon has with the CIA and the FBI, one of the parts of the deal is that the FBI and the CIA gets to, you know, look at you have web storage with Amazon. They have access to it. You know, it's like, no, just get away from them.
Oh, any government entity can go into your business if they feel like they are justified.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, but with Amazon, they don't even need a warrant because
come on, I'm not ordering any guns or anything like that.
I know you're not. Which that would be funny, of course. Like if you got in trouble for buying the guns you bought on Amazon
in my spare time.
Because Amazon sells that stuff on their site, but they don't. Because of the terms of service that you sign when you sign up for any of their products, you basically let the CIA and the FBI just, you know, look at your stuff without a warrant. That you agree to it in the terms of service, things like that, and also, like, you know, if we're gonna make it even more personal, I mean, I was hard went under, and after they go under, not even a day later, the first thing Amazon did is they announced that they were releasing like a catalog. And Amazon spent years convincing people that retail was dead. Why go to the store? It's archaic. And all these businesses went out of business. Companies went out of business. And now Amazon's entering the retail business. And now that they're too big to stop. And it's like, no, retail has some real value to it. So don't get started on Amazon. Do we have any other questions? Mark?
It's first of all, it's too late to not get you started. Secondly, can I still be a good Jew?
Could you what?
Well, you said I can't be a good Christian. Right. I'm just wondering if that's limited to Christianity.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, I would. I'm not Jewish, so I'm not going to comment on that. I just know that Amazon's values are not compatible with the values that are taught in Sunday every week.
That was just a joke. You didn't have to answer it.
Oh, well. Yeah, I know it's a joke, but anyway, I kind of wonder how many people are is that section of the podcast going to be memed? I don't know. Anyway, are there any other questions from anyone? Actually, no. Okay. Well, in that case, that was a very interesting note to end it all on. I'd like to once again, folks, give it up for Drive Girl Drive.
We gotta say, a savage scientist dropped $4.74.
He sure did.
He's trying to bribe us to be a moderator.
I think we should let him do it.
Savage scientist says, "Can I be a moderator?" And he dropped it.
Hey, I'm going to give him my vote.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Scientist.
Yep. Actually,
the blue wrench.
I agree. I think we should make him a moderator. So before we log out, I'm going to make him a moderator so everyone watching this live can see it happening. Although if it was $4.74, it's not $5.
It's a very specific number.
What does that mean, Savage?
We're cheap and we can be bought. What the hell is I for Uber?
You know, knowing him because he's a scientist, I bet you there's like a mathematical joke in there.
Heard that? You heard that, guys? Moderator status on sale, $5.
Yep. So, can I become a moderator? All right, I am doing this now. Okay, Savage Scientist, you are now a moderator.
Cool.
You are now a moderator.
Say something, Savage.
Uber Girl Paul is in, and I've noticed, she says, have you guys talked about all this sneaky online streaming your packs? No, we haven't talked about that, although that would make for a fascinating topic next podcast, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, you know, the ethically whether you should be streaming your drive. I think that would make for a great topic next episode.
So. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, 2 weeks. We've got another topic. Yay. We've got another topic for... Okay, guys. Maybe not 2 weeks because I'm going to be in... Well, actually, no, I could do this anywhere I want. Yeah, like two weeks, guys. We'll talk about whether or not... you know, we'll have a discussion about streaming your ride-sharing nights. But... Anyway, with that said, I don't Uber Girl Paula says it's going to be old news, but no, it will not be old news by then. It will not be old news by then because I mean I know that Just Smurf getting and that was the streamer's name, Just Smurf. I know him getting caught, that is old news, but the question still remains, and it's actually been a question that has been around for quite a while. Like
it has,
because people are actually encouraged to put cameras in their car and record things, but the terms of service have actually always been very vague on whether or not you're allowed to live stream it or even do anything with it. So, and I know we've got like some, you know, mix. So yeah, that will still be a relevant topic in 2 weeks. And I see Uber Gold Paula. I mean, she's definitely trying to make her point here where it's like there's still drivers doing this, and it's like, yeah, and you know what, if we talked about it today, they'd be doing it next week as well. So we'll talk about it in 2 weeks when we have the time. We've been doing this for more than an hour, and as much as we're enjoying each other, you know, I try not to push the hour and a half limit. So yeah, in 2 weeks we will make this a topic. I'm even going to make a note about it right now so we don't forget about it in my Todoist app, which I love. Anyway, now we're going to end it here. Once again, we have Cecily from Drive Girl Drive.
Peace out.
We have Mike from Your Driver Mike.
Thanks for watching, guys.
And we have got Mark from Uber Hints and Average Me.
Oh, I was waiting to see what you were going to say for that one. Thank you.
I saw that.
So humble.
Yeah. Yes. And I am Kevin, the Apptrepreneur. I've also got my personal channel at Kevin T. Rodriguez.
Plug.
And I write reviews for iCritic.net. So there, I can do all the plugs I want too.
Yes, you can.
So anyway, thank you all for watching. Give us that likes up if you enjoyed it. We'll see you in a couple weeks. And like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. Do you think I'll have 10,000 subscribers to our next episode? Probably not. I think we'll have to wait 2 episodes before then. But we'll do something special. Oh yeah. Okay. Before we say have a good one, we do want to at least congratulate Drive Girl Drive for getting 10,000.
Yeah. Thank you.
So So now on that note, thank you for listening. Have a good one.
Bye.
So long, all.